Chapter 6 The Gift of the Gab by Kate Douglas Wiggin. Rebecca's visit to Milltown was all that her glowing fancy had painted. It would be impossible for two children to see more, do more, walk more, talk more, eat more, or ask more questions than Rebecca and Emma Jane did on that eventful Wednesday. "Rebecca's best company I've ever seen in all my life," said Mrs. Cobb to her husband that evening. "We haven't had a dull minute this day. She's well-mannered too. She didn't ask for anything and was thankful for whatever she got."
"I took it all in,"
responded Mr. Cobb, who was pleased that Mother agreed with him about Rebecca.
"I'm sure that she's going to turn out something remarkable. A singer, or a writer, or a lady doctor."
"I can't see Rebecca as a doctor somehow," mused Mrs. Cobb. "Her gift of gab is what's going to be the making of her. Maybe she'll lecture or recite pieces?" Despite the praise from Mr. and Mrs. Cobb, Rebecca made a poor hand at composition writing at this time. Miss Dearborn gave her every sort of subject that she had ever been given herself: cloud pictures, nature, philanthropy, slavery, joy and duty, solitude, but with none of them did Rebecca seem to deal satisfactorily. "Write as you talk, Rebecca," insisted poor Miss Dearborn, who secretly knew that she could not manage a good composition herself. "But gracious me, Miss Dearborn, I don't talk about nature and slavery. I can't write unless I have something to say. Can I?" "That is what compositions are for," returned Miss Dearborn, "to make you have things to say. Now in your last one on solitude, you haven't said anything very interesting, and you have made it too common and everyday to sound well. There are too many yous and yours in it. You ought to say one now and then to make it seem more like good writing. One opens a favorite book. One's thoughts are a great comfort in solitude, and so on." "I don't know any more about solitude this week than I did about joy and duty last week," grumbled Rebecca. "You tried to be funny about joy and duty," said Miss Dearborn reprovingly. "So of course you didn't succeed." Joy and duty had been the inspiring subject given to the other children for a theme to be written in 5 minutes. Rebecca had struggled and perspired in vain. When her turn came to read, she was forced to confess she had written nothing. "You have at least 2 lines, Rebecca," insisted the teacher, "for I see them on your slate." "I'd rather not read them. Please, they are not good," pleaded Rebecca. "Read what you have, good or bad, little or much. I'm excusing nobody." Rebecca rose, overcome with secret laughter and mortification. Then in a low voice she read the couplet: "When joy and duty clash, let duty go to smash." Dick Carter's head disappeared under the desk, while Living Perkins choked with laughter. Miss Dearborn laughed too. "You must stay after school and try again, Rebecca," she said, but she said it smilingly. "Your poetry hasn't a very nice idea in it for a good little girl who ought to love duty." "It wasn't my idea," said Rebecca apologetically. "I had only made the first line when I saw you were going to ring the bell and say the time was up. I had clash written and I couldn't think of anything then but hash or rash or smash. I'll change it to this: when joy and duty clash, this joy must go to smash." "That is better," Miss Dearborn answered, "though I cannot think going to smash is a pretty expression for poetry." Having been instructed in the use of the indefinite pronoun one as giving a refined and elegant touch to literary efforts, Rebecca painstakingly rewrote her composition on solitude. It then appeared in the following form, which hardly satisfied either teacher or pupil. Solitude. It would be false to say that one could ever be alone when one has one's lovely thoughts to comfort one. One sits by one's self, it is true, but one thinks, one opens one's favorite book and reads one's favorite story. One speaks to one's aunt or one's brother, fondles one's cat, or looks at one's photograph album. There is one's work also. What a joy it is to one. If one happens to like work, all one's little household tasks keep one from being lonely. Does one ever feel barefoot when one picks up wood chips to light one's fire for one's evening meal? Or when one washes one's milk pail before milking one's cow? One would fancy not. It is perfectly dreadful, sighed Rebecca when she read it aloud after school. Putting in one all the time doesn't make it sound any more like a book, and it looks silly besides. You say such queer things, objected Miss Dearborn. I don't see what makes you do it. Why did you put in anything so common as picking up chips? Because I was talking about household tasks in the sentence before, and it is one of my household tasks. Don't you think calling supper one's evening meal is pretty? And isn't barefoot a nice word? Yes, that part of it does very well. It is the cat, the chips, and the milk pail that I don't like. All right, said Rebecca. Out they go. Does the cow go too? Yes, I don't like a cow in a composition, said the difficult Miss Dearborn. Adapted from Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farm. A good teacher helps and encourages us to improve our work.